posterity. Hey, he remembered.
There we go. So I have the laptop in the middle now, so hopefully that will help the people on Zoom, because this whole study I've been struggling with how to get them to hear better. So hopefully this setup will be okay. So I will share the... Carrie, I'm going to put you on mute, okay? Because it sounds like a lot of background noise. Okay. Where's me, Daniel 6? What's that? No, it's her. Yeah, I got it. No, Kay, you were fine. I'm going to mute Carrie. Okay. And feel free to unmute. You guys should be able to unmute yourselves if you ever want to just chime into any part of the study. Okay, so just for to recap where we were, Daniel 1. What's it about? Go. Don't everybody jump at once. Anybody? Daniel 1?
Daniel.
Summary?
Let me get my notes. Where's my
They are so cute out there.
bronze statue? I mean,
No.
No.
Anybody want to summarize Daniel 1? Quick summary. We're introduced to Daniel.
Yep. Nebuchadnezzar comes to Jerusalem and he besieges it.
Yeah.
And then as he brings certain things back to, I guess, Babylon, right?
Well, yeah, I'm not sure if that was in Daniel 1, but yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he did besiege Jerusalem, and he did bring back all the treasures and things like that into
Including
Babylon.
Some of the best of the kings,
Right.
I guess eunuchs? No, they weren't eunuchs yet.
They probably weren't eunuchs yet, but he probably made them eunuchs. One of the benefits of getting captured.
3 of them were
No more kids for you.
Anakiah,
Yeah.
and Daniel.
Yes. So we're introduced to Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who had those are the Babylonian names given to them. Those names are reference their god, the Babylonian gods. They're not their original names. Their original names are Hebrew names. And then what happens with Daniel and the boys? Everybody remember?
Yeah.
They wouldn't. They eat vegetables.
Yeah, you got it, Wendy. Yep.
Vegan.
Yep. They became vegans. So they went into essentially it seemed to be like almost like a re-education camp or something like that, where they just need to learn the ways of the Babylonians and their gods and their literature and everything, just kind of be
Which they did.
brainwashed, like a brainwashing camp. You know what I mean?
Behind the scenes.
But one thing they refused to do is eat the food. So they stayed seemingly vegetarian, eating it seems like beans or nuts or something like that. And they wound up staying strong and gaining weight.
Yes.
Right.
And if I remember correctly, at the end, Nebuchadnezzar was so impressed with that he put them into high positions.
Already.
Yes.
Just from eating vegetables.
Yes, exactly. So that's the lesson in
Because
1.
they
Eat
put
your
the blood
vegetables.
first.
Amen. Eat your veggies.
Yes. Put God first and eat your vegetables. Those are good rules to live by.
Right.
So then we hit Daniel chapter 2. Anybody remember what that's about? And you are allowed to cheat.
Dreams. The dreams.
Which dream? What was the dream?
The statue made of various elements.
Hey, Susie? Do you want to get the 1 second? Do you want to get the 1 second?
I thought you already got it.
I didn't get it. So the statue, right? And just in general, what was the statue about?
Representation of what
Yeah.
each country is and what it stands for.
Very good.
The stone and the
Yep.
brass and the feet and
Yep.
the head.
Yep. So from the head down to the feet, it had different elements. It was made up of different. What would be the word?
Iron, clay.
Right.
Can you name them all?
Gold, silver, bronze, like the Olympics, and then iron. Right, and then iron and clay for the feet. And then a big stone came and kind of destroyed the whole thing, and that represents like the kingdom of God. So those are all the different kingdoms that were going to take over the area. The top one, the gold one being, what's that?
The bear is Russia.
There was no bear, and there was no Russia. Not in that.
No, the bear means in this day Russia.
That is one interpretation. But that's not in Daniel. At least not what we read so
Daniel,
far.
it's in, I won't say. Okay.
Okay.
We'll wait.
But the thing is about it is that the king was going to kill everybody. He wanted them to
Yes.
know the dream.
Yes,
and
yes, yes.
interpret the dream.
Yes.
And Daniel said, right before he was going to get killed, like, can
Yep.
you give me a minute?
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
And I'll seek, he sought the Lord, and they think they fasted and prayed, right? Just
Right,
like
right.
Esther.
Right,
Yes.
right.
And then he was given the dream, and he was given the interpretation.
Yep, yep. So Daniel was able to actually say, this is what your dream was, right? The king didn't just say, here's my dream, give me an interpretation. The king said, you got to tell me what the dream is and the interpretation. And none of his soothsayers and wizards and such can do it.
Right,
Sorcerers
but
can
once
do it.
again, Daniel said, the Lord
The Lord, he
knows
gave
it,
credit to
not
the Lord.
me. You know, yeah. So it's a beautiful thing.
So that was Daniel 2. Daniel 3, what was Daniel 3?
Did Boaz split in
Anybody?
The
There's another in the fight.
Elaine, we need you.
Right.
Come on.
They're doing the ministry of the kiddos.
builds a statue.
I'm eating genetically modified corn chips.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Which
So
they
they
pour-
are
Yep, correct.
cast into the fiery.
Yep, correct. Correct. Yep. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Daniel is absent from the chapter. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they would not bow down to the statue that Nebuchadnezzar put up, and they got put into the fire. But there was a fourth. May the fourth be with you in the fire. And
I know what Harry Potter is, and I don't know the one that
Yep.
has, like, the big spider.
Yeah.
so that was
I can buy one.
Daniel chapter 3. Daniel chapter 4, what was that about?
That's all.
Oh, yes, the vision of the great tree.
I was just gonna say the tree is not.
Yeah. So who's the one who was narrating Daniel chapter 4? Do you remember?
No. Don't show me the spiders.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was actually the words of Nebuchadnezzar. Like he's talking as first person. Like this is what happened to me. And he was talking about a dream that he had and a big tree and it covered the whole earth, but then it got chopped down. And Daniel again interpreted it that he was essentially going to be humbled and he was going to spend 7 years kind of out in the wilderness with his lost mind, kind of out, with the animals, suffering, I guess, from mental illness, until he'd be restored. And he was.
And he was.
And he gave credit and he gave praise to the God of Israel. Daniel 5.
And it came
Yeah.
to pass like 12 months later, when he was walking on the roof, that, oh no.
Right, 12 months after the vision, that's
Yes.
when he fell into this state.
Right, right. Okay.
Yep. So that was Daniel chapter 4. So Daniel chapter 5, which was last time.
The hand emerged.
The hand writing on the wall. Yep.
Oh,
So who was king at that time? So we see a transition from Nebuchadnezzar to a different king. Does anybody remember who the king was?
Belshazzar.
Belshazzar. Yep. Belshazzar.
who's related, right?
Yep.
Like a great
Likely the grandson of Nebuchadnezzar.
Right.
And what happened with the writing on the wall and what happened in that story?
Eeny, meeny,
Yeah, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Yeah. Meeny, meeny, tickle, oop parson, or oopsarin.
Didn't they have a party,
Yeah?
like a banquet thing?
Yep.
And they
Yep.
called for the goblets of gold?
Yes, that's
Yes.
important. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. He started using all the utensils and the articles from the temple,
Yeah.
and that seemed to really upset God.
Yes.
I would say so.
Yes.
We'll never do that.
And that was translated. The writing on the wall was translated, and it seemed that Belshazzar was killed that night. And then at the end of chapter 5, in, I would say, the Christian versions of the Old Testament, you have what I have here is Daniel 6, verse 1. So the Jewish Tanakh and the Christian
It's a cliffhanger.
Old Testament, kind of, right, exactly.
Yes.
Sort of a lead into the next one.
That makes you want to
It
go.
wants you to go to the next one really quickly.
Right.
So, so whether it's end of chapter 5 or the beginning of 6, whatever translation you're looking at, we read this last week, and Darius the Mede received the kingdom, being about 62 years old. Yep, so now we see the end of the Babylonian kingdom, and we see the beginning of the Persian kingdom. So,
So the Medes and the Persians go.
so they were unified at one point, but then
God
they.
gave it to them, right?
Yes, correct. So now out Babylonians and now Persian media came in, and they were the rulers of the land at that point. So one thing I don't like about historians, or I don't appreciate about historians, is they don't really look at the Bible as an authentic history book. Like you may have some ancient historian that may say this,
Right.
and they'll say, okay, well that's what the historian said. But if it contradicts the Bible, they'll go with the historian, and they'll say, well, the Bible must be false. So we do see some differences between Daniel's account and what I'm going to say is the historical record. Of course, we that believe in the Bible will go with the Bible over that. But the historical record, which has yet to catch up to the Bible, obviously, believes, number one, that the last king of Babylon was not Belshazzar, was another king named Nabonidus, and the first king of Persia was Cyrus. And this Darius that came in between the end of Babylon and Cyrus coming in, they don't know of any Darius. There's been plenty of Dariuses. Like if you look through history, there's Darius the Great, Darius the Second, Darius the Third, Darius the Fourth, all throughout that kingdom. But there's no Darius that happened immediately. Like right, what's that?
What's a satrap?
What's a satrap? Is that like a officer? I think it's probably like an officer.
think it's
Governor?
a-
Yeah, governor. Yeah.
That many of them though?
Ancient Persian.
120 of them?
So one thing I was just looking at the translations here. So this is, again, I showed this in the beginning. So this is Safaria.org. This actually has the Old Testament Bible as well as a lot of Jewish commentary, Talmud and things like that. So it'll show in Hebrew and in English the Bible. And if you click on it, if I could just move this guy out of the way real quick. And you click on a verse, it'll show you all the different references that are some in the Jewish commentaries. And one thing that Rashi said about verse 1, about Darius the Mede, Rashi was a commentator from the Middle Ages. So he said Darius the Mede received the kingdom at age 62, which is from the scripture. And what Jewish tradition says, and there's no proof if it's true or not, it's that on the day that Nebuchadnezzar, this is what Jewish tradition says, on the day that Nebuchadnezzar entered the Heichal, that's the temple, in the days of Jehoiakim, Darius was born. So the day that Nebuchadnezzar entered into the temple was the day that Darius was born. And we know the exile was 70 years. So what he's concluding is that Nebuchadnezzar reigned for 45 years. 23 years was his son. We don't see him in the Bible, but we definitely see him in the historical record, Evil Merodach. So 45 plus 23 is what? So that is 68. And 2 years of Belshazzar. So there's your 70 years. So that's your 70 years of Babylonian kings, according to Jewish tradition. Hi, Santoses.
Are they here?
Yes, they are. Hey, guys. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, happy to join.
Yeah, happy to hear your voices.
Does that say Prophet Santos?
Professor.
Oh, Professor.
So we will just go in order, and we'll just start to read and discuss as we normally do. So now we have Darius in charge of the Persian kingdom, and here we go. So we'll start with, this is, in your Bibles, it's probably chapter 6, verse 1. So who can we start with? Sarah, do you want to start with you? And we'll just go one verse at a time.
Sure, I have a different translation.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yep.
Darius the Mede decided to divide the kingdom into 120 provinces, and he appointed a high officer to rule over each province.
Okay.
The king also chose Daniel and 2 others as administrators to supervise the high officers and protect the king's interests.
Okay, so you could stop there. So any thoughts on that? So I think what the Bible is showing us here, obviously, is that Daniel is being shown favor, and that is continuing, right? I mean, we see Daniel being shown favor all throughout the Babylonian rule in that land with all the different kings, and we see that all throughout these narratives that we've been reading about. And now we have the Persians coming in, and immediately Daniel is put in charge. So Daniel is already in this kingdom, so his reputation obviously preceded him, right? So he's put into a high position with this new king in the new kingdom. Which, obviously is really interesting. I mean, we would just so love to see that in some of the kingdoms of the world in America. Like if there's somebody like a man of God who has so much favor and has such a good reputation, even amongst the kings, they're put into high positions in government. Like that would obviously be
Yeah, we need some of them.
We need some of them. We sure do. We sure do. So any other thoughts on these opening verses? Eric, do you want to read the next?
Verse 3.
Rabbi, what version do you have up there?
Let me put up.
That Bible.
Yeah, let me just be consistent with you guys. Let me put up. What's a good
I'm
version
on
that
the-
you guys have?
I'm on the Jewish Complete.
I'm on the-
Oh, so your numbering was consistent with what I was just showing.
Yeah,
But others won't
I'm
have
on
it.
Bible Gateway, the Jewish Complete.
You were on the complete
version.
Jewish Bible. Okay. All right. I'll just stick with what I had then. It's all good. So that would be verse 3 for you, Eric.
Now Daniel so distinguished himself among the administrators and the satraps by the exceptional qualities that the king planned to set himself over the whole kingdom.
Yep.
At this...
Wait. Oh, you can stop there. Just go one verse at a time.
Okay.
So his extraordinary spirit, the king considered setting him over the whole kingdom. So here again we see Daniel's reputation preceding him and having a lot of favor from the king, which is
Talk
awesome.
about promotion,
Yeah, that's pretty quick, right?
right? Mm-hmm.
Right.
So what I noticed is it says this man Daniel.
Yeah.
In mine it says then this Daniel became distinguished, but
Yeah.
they're specifying that it was him. They're like, don't think it's another Daniel. It's
Right.
this one.
Right. Yep. Emphasizing who
Right.
he is. Right. Okay. Any other thoughts on this verse? Verse 3/4. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
How many times over the years have other people gotten upset because other people have done very well?
Yes.
And it's almost like a negative thing, like
That's where we're gonna go
who
in
do
this
you think
chapter.
You are, and all of that, and it brings up the the wrong response in people sometimes.
Sorry.
Is that water?
It's water. It's water. I should have realized that was
We
going to
won't.
happen.
We won't tell.
That's okay. We may cry over spilled milk, but we won't cry over spilled water.
That's okay, he's gonna take a bath then.
Okay, sweetie love.
No, but
What is it?
sometimes
Cat, gonna roll in it.
like
He's
he
gonna chew your
like this is something that we like that's not
Right.
the Lord's heart. That's not the right attitude.
Right. Right.
I'll tell you, working in unions and stuff through many years, and my sisters as well, that sometimes they almost like will blackball you if you're
Doing well.
doing well.
Isn't that something?
And that's,
Right.
it's, so you can't, like, you have to have the right response.
Right.
So,
Well, I think that
That's
also
true.
sometimes with that jealousy is not
There's a
so
spirit of
much
jealousy.
against the person, but rather than the person, not the person that's been promoted, but the person feeling inadequate themselves at themselves. So they're feeling inadequate at themselves, so they lash out because if you do well, then that really makes me look bad. It's a kind of a me thing rather than a you thing that I think it is the root of it.
right.
Right.
Crying.
I hope that camera's solely on Tammy.
It is. Oh, it's not. Sorry.
Yes, it is.
Sorry, I forgot. No Wendy on the camera.
Not me.
Yes, you.
Come on. Sorry, I'm not
Okay,
looking.
why does she get special treatment? We all don't want to be on the camera.
There you go. Well, not just that.
We have to get masquerade masks.
Right. On our face, hold it up.
All right, number 4. Is that what we're on?
So anyway, but that's a really good point that you bring up, right? Because that's something that we need to check ourselves, right? And even like we were just talking about like the sermon from this past Shabbat, like when something kind of rises up within you, is it really based on fact, or is it just based on something we're dealing with? Like, why is there some sort of jealousy in there? And it takes some maturity and some wisdom to say, okay, I'm feeling this, but this feeling may not be aligned with really what God is seeing here. So maybe I should just take a step back and think about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. All right, so
Excellent spirit.
Yeah.
yes. Right, and an excellent spirit is a humble spirit.
Amen. Amen.
And an excellent spirit is one that when you have a negative feeling or a feeling that's not aligned with the kingdom of God, you do your best to recognize that and to take a step back and say, okay, before I act on this, I'm going to lift it up.
Yeah.
I think also conversely, if the Lord blesses you, don't downplay it. Because then, I mean,
Right.
sometimes in the other way, it's like, yeah, but now if the blessing is revealed, then no one's going to like me. No one's like, so I'm not going to really shine. Like, you know what I mean? Because I want to fit in. And, that happens too. And then the Lord's like, don't hide your light under a bushel. So it's like, yes, Lord, what do you do?
Right.
Better to be liked by the Lord than me.
Amen.
Amen, sister.
Rabbi, what did you say your version was?
So this is called Jewish Publication Society. I mean, I can...
Not J.B. Phillips, right?
No.
Because mine ain't matching with anybody's. I'm on the complete Jewish one.
Well, then I'm going to do the Complete Jewish Bible too.
There you are?
I'm going to do that just for you, Michelle.
Oh, thank you.
I've learned that.
What's that?
I switched over to the.
You did? Okay, so I'll do that as well then, if that's
I
what
wasn't
people are
matching
looking.
anybody's. Okay, at least now.
Well, we can read off it.
I'm gonna read,
Yeah, you can just read off the screen, that's true.
Yeah,
I'm gonna read the King James, but I'll change all the thous to ois.
Boys.
Boy,
I am not, I appreciate the King James, but I also don't appreciate that. Like, I know that there's a thought that they really were diligent in translating, but they also clearly translated Passover to Easter.
Oh, yeah.
Clearly,
Yeah. No,
know?
for
Yeah,
sure.
they did.
So. All right, so...
It's a different time.
So in the Complete Jewish Bible, it actually will show you, if you notice here it says like 6 and then it says 531 or 2 and then in parentheses 1. So it'll show you what the Jewish Tanakh verse numbers are, but it'll also show you what the Christian Old Testament versions are, verse numbers are. Okay, so I think we are on 4 here.
Correct.
And Eric, you read, right?
Yes.
So Lou, you want to read
Sure.
4?
Consequently, the supervisors and satraps were trying to find some...
Wait. Can you go? For you, it's 3. I'm sorry.
Oh, for me, it's 3?
Yes, sorry about that. For you, it's 3.
Oh, no, we did it. We did 3.
We did 3?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
No, we didn't.
No, we're
Yes,
in
we
different,
did. That's
we're in
what-
different versions. What was the last thing you read?
Eric,
I
did you
read
do
3.
3?
it's supposed to be but because an extraordinary spirit.
What was 3 that you read on yours?
Spirit.
You said you reid verse 3?
Yes.
And what? Can you repeat it again?
It's, now Daniel so distinguished himself among the administrators and
King
satraps.
James.
So that's this.
Now we're 5.
Got it. So Lou.
Why don't we skip to Sue real quick? And I brought a net Bible today. I'm gonna get you a CJB and then you can read from the same. If you just
Now, what am I reading now?
What you're reading
Are we
for.
skipping Lou or are we?
skip and go to Susan and then go back to the.
Okay, so Susan,
I'll get you.
you can read
I got you. 4.
probably 4 in your Bible. Oh, you were on the Complete Jewish Bible?
Yeah.
The one that says 5 in parentheses 4.
No, 4 and then 3 parentheses.
No, isn't that's what Eric just
That's
read,
what I'm
right?
next.
But Eric just read this one, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he's ready.
Yes. So 5 in parentheses 4.
She's gonna read 5.
I'm gonna-
Should we have
what am I gonna read?
Yes, 5.
Okay.
The other chiefs.
That's the one.
The other chiefs.
We'll get there.
And the viceroy tried to find a cause for complaint against Daniel in regard to how he performed his governing duties.
So there's the jealousy.
But they could find nothing to complain about, no fault. On the contrary, because he was so faithful, not a single instance of negligence or faulty administration could be found.
Good for
Can I
him.
bring up that book that I told you about?
Yeah, please do.
I've never read the book.
That'll give me a chance to feed the cat.
You just
Again?
read the cat.
You want it right here?
Oh, yeah.
So there's a book, and I never read it, but I looked up to find there's 10 principles, and it says that Daniel chapter 6 is a foreshadow of Yeshua,
Okay.
and there's 10 points.
Okay.
So I just wanted to bring that up
Yeah.
because as you're reading through this, you can see.
That's great. Yeah.
At first I thought, this is ridiculous, but as I read through it, does make a lot of sense.
Okay.
So, yeah, so this is one that we just read. The excellent spirit is in him, and then them.
Yeah, didn't the
colluding
Pharisees
against
them
him.
trying to find something against Jesus, Yeshua?
Yeah, that was in Matthew.
Okay.
In Mark 14.
He's going to play piano.
And the chief priests and the council sought for witness against Yeshua to put him to death and found none.
Okay. Yep. Yep. Yep.
So anyway, I just wanted to.
Oh, so as
we're reading
you
through, like,
as
yeah.
yeah. Okay. Got it.
Because when I reread that after the whole chapter, it really started to pop out.
All right. That's great. That's great. Otherwise, you're not going to let me do this, are you?
Oh, and then their response was like Balaam. Why?
So right. And so, any other thoughts on this verse?
Yeah. Yes, Rabbi.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jay.
I absolutely love it. Right. So he said he was faithful, not a single instance of negligence or faulty administration. So just so good at his work.
Right.
And
yeah.
So I assume he wasn't gossiping. Just really had good outcomes. And I think if we do that at work, I mean, people could say like, wow, what's your difference maker? And then we could say Adonai. I mean, I know for me, at least, in terms of Shabbat, I bring it up at work. Like, yeah, I take this day of rest. And that's why I feel like I'm refreshed when I'm at work doing the same thing everyone else is doing. So I think it could be a testimony.
That's awesome.
It really could be.
Yes.
Really could be.
That's great. Awesome. Thank you, Jay. That's great. Yeah. And I like that it shows that he was faithful. So they speak about not only his faith, but also his excellence in what he's doing. So he did clearly a great job in what his responsibilities were, as well as being faithful, and they intersected. So that's something we could all take home and and learn from.
I just wanted to mention there's a man who actually got me into believing in, Jesus, because he was a Christian, but I was not a believer at the time, and he was a co-worker of mine, and my boss said to everybody, it was a sub-boss, it wasn't a high boss, and he said, oh, everybody can go home early. And so as I was leaving, this man was still at his desk working, and I said to him, they said we could all go home, and he said, I don't work for him, I work for him.
Oh.
And that changed my whole world. Just
Wow.
that one sentence.
Wow. I would have went home.
Yeah,
Me too.
I did go home, but it was stuck in my head.
In a heartbeat. Because I'm obedient to earthly authorities.
Nice one.
All right. Are we ready to have Lou read?
Yes.
Lou read.
Number 6. Lou Reed. I like that. Lou Reed. That's
He's awesome.
Take a walk on the wild side, Lou.
Then these
Oh no. Oh no, we're losing it. All right, 6.
Pluck their eyebrows on the
Then these
way.
presidents and princes assembled together.
Wait.
Then these men.
Then these
commissioners.
Then these men.
You got him?
Yeah. There you go.
Oh,
It says 6'5". So.
Yes, that's the one.
Okay.
6'5". Then these men said, we're not going to find any cause for complaint against this Daniel unless we find something against him. We go out to the law of his God.
Wow. So what are they saying here? Translate or summarize what these men said. Tell me what they said in your own words.
We've got to make them violate the law of God or something like that.
Right. We have to make a law.
He won't violate the law of
Right.
God, so we can make a law down.
Right.
The law.
We have to make a law where he has to choose either keep our law and thus violate God's law, or keep God's law and violate our law.
It's kind of
Knowing
like
how
a
good
Balaam
he was
response.
with the Lord, how much
It's
he
very
loved
much
him,
a Balaam
surprised
response.
He even did everything he was supposed to.
What's that say again?
I said, he got appointed to be over these people. With the love he has for God, I was surprised that he even, did it. Because he was probably against half the things that the king told him to do.
Yeah.
But he just did it anyway. But because of that, they're
Isn't that
like, well, yeah,
interesting?
we're gonna find something now about you worshiping God.
Right.
Because now we're gonna get you.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I just was so surprised that he just,
Well, you could see the
there must
conflict.
have been things he didn't want to
Sure.
tell these people,
Right. Right.
Not regarding God, but just the rules.
In his job, right?
Right.
Like how can you morally or before God be in such an immoral position?
Right.
Right? So perhaps Daniel teaches us that there's a way to do it. Like you can remain faithful
Right.
and not sin and still
Yeah.
work in a pagan government. It must be really hard.
Yeah.
330 million people right now doing it.
That's true. That is true. All right, so we have these. Oh, that was.
Right.
Yes, Jay.
I just the whole going back to the no cause for complaint again. I think about like really being a good neighbor or really being a good coworker, and not gossiping. It can. I don't know if by anyone else on the call, but it could be tough when everyone's gossiping, and that's kind of the part of the banner. And you don't want to engage in it, but just imagine not having any complaint with your coworkers. And I'm assuming he just was so good at his job, but pleasant to people. He probably brought shalom in the room, and that's a big deal.
Yeah,
that's a big deal. And
yeah.
I'm just curious. We don't have to answer, but if we should be like that when we go to work, or there's someone's like, wow, there's something's different about you, because work can be toxic. It can be really tough, or annoying, or frustrating. We spend 40 hours a week there versus at home.
Right.
But I think that's so interesting that he was integrity is important.
Yeah.
Just probably a good coworker to be around.
Yep. Yep.
I hope us on the call we are like that.
Right.
Especially people find out we're believers. They're like, well, shouldn't you be different?
Exactly. Yeah.
Sometimes we're not. Sometimes we're not. Sometimes we act like everyone else.
Right. It's a great opportunity to give testimony, and to be a light.
Yeah, like, would anybody here at their work say, oh yeah, he's a Christian? Or would they be like, oh she is? Because she's always gossiping about this one. That's how I feel sometimes.
Exactly.
Like, do people at my work say to themselves, oh, she's a good person, she's a good Christian? Or are they saying, oh, she's just regular?
Right.
Because I try to act the way I'm supposed to, but
Right.
of course the gossip comes, so we're supposed to always be like him, always be a light
Yeah.
to the world.
Yeah.
So people should know us by our,
Love.
Yeah.
right? By do they?
That's
So
true.
It makes you
I
think.
actually have a funny story about that because my office, I work in a very large office and they're all women. There's like no men except for the titles.
Must be a bunch of hens.
And I made a pact with myself not too long ago that I was not going to get involved in any of that.
Right.
And now they all come over and gossip to me about how they're not gossiping anymore.
Uh-huh.
But other people are, oh, she's still gossiping, but I'm not doing it.
They know I don't.
But they do. They all come over to me and they say, oh, Lisa's still talking about so-and-so, but I learned from you and I'm not doing it. I'm like, well, you're doing it right now.
Right.
So, Rabbi, I just want to add, I think there's a fine balance because I'm in the midst of that. I can check out. I've almost mastered it. Like, I can be in the midst of it and totally check out in my head. But I also recognize there's a fine line between what one considers gossip and, just communicating and sharing things.
Sure.
And I give a lot of latitude for people to be able to come forth and express what they need to express. They don't need to know, but I know that it stays with me. And I'm just giving them that space to
Mm.
share and to be heard, and then I just try to understand where it's coming from.
That doesn't sound like gossip at all.
Yeah,
but when you're- when you're
working in the
repeating
healthcare
it.
field, that's not.
As long as you're not repeating it to someone else, then it's not gossip.
But even like if they're coming and doing it, like, it's just that fine line. Like for me, everything is getting towards center balance. And then we're flawed. We're just flawed. So I'm just like,
We are.
I'm just trying to recognize it and do my best to just function at my best on any given day, depending on how spiritually fit I am.
That's
Some
all you
days
can
I'm
do,
good,
right?
and some days I might be in the corner like,
Right.
but for the most part, I don't, you know, like. But I say that, but, like, as evidence that, like, I recognize I'm flawed, but for, like, for
Sure.
the most part, like, I just try to give that acknowledgement. Not everyone I work with are believers, so I have no expectations for them to live by biblical principles.
Right.
My only expectation is of self and how I respond to that.
Yeah. I mean, the folks that I work with, like, I am not Mr. Evangelist at all at my job, but, you know, they know there are certain boundaries with me, especially guys, you know what I mean? Like, they, you know, they have these little, you know, kind of dirty videos sometimes that they would want to show each other or something, and they know not to show it to me. They know I'm just, I've never been mean about it or anything like that. Just like, nope, no thank you, not interested, you know?
Right, right.
I would think, knowing the men that I've known, you know, having been in like road construction and stuff like that they would be like more challenged by, oh, let's see if we can get him to watch this.
Mm.
You know, you don't find that?
I did when I worked for Pfizer,
Okay.
but not here at Citizens Bank. What's that?
How about you stood strong?
At Pfizer?
Yeah, the harder they came at you stood strong.
Yeah. I was a young believer.
You have to go back in the
Wendy, I did the best I could depending upon the day. All right, we ready to move on?
Yes.
Thank God. Okay, just kidding. Okay, so who is next to read? Lainey, did you read?
Yeah.
No, she
It's in my
didn't.
spot.
She did not.
Lou and I are like the same.
I know, I get it. Can you read two? Can you read 7 and 8 or 6 and 7, whatever your translation is?
Seven.
If you're reading Complete Jewish Bible, 7 and 8. What's one?
Want me to read the Jewish Bible? I'm in the Net Bible.
Whichever one you want. The two verses after the men said, we're going to find something, a way for him to break.
I like better.
Oh, okay.
I kind of like the Net, so I'm going to read that. I like to play that game. So the supervisors and satraps came by conclusion to the king and said to him, O King Darius, live forever. To all the supervisors of the kingdom, the prefects, satraps, counselors, and governors, it seemed like a good idea for a royal edict to be issued and an inter-edict to be enforced. For the next 30 days, does anyone who prays to any god or human other than you, O king, should be thrown into a den of lions.
Sounds like a good idea.
Sounds like a repeat of them.
Interdict,
Oh, yeah.
so that it cannot be altered according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which cannot be changed.
Oh, did you continue?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought you said read too, so.
Oh,
The
right.
numbering's different, I'll stick with the CJD.
Okay.
Yeah. It's different than all of them.
Okay, well, then you want to finish that paragraph
Sure,
there?
so King Darius issued the written interdict.
Couldn't help it.
He was like, yeah, that's
Seems like a
pretty
weak king,
Yeah.
you know? Almost like doesn't have his own thoughts on this. He's just kind of taking advice from his underlings and just doing, okay, sounds good.
Familiar?
He sounds a little feckless to me.
I wonder if there's like any kind of conversation behind that, because, I mean, personally, I'd be like, well, oh, why did you think that was a good idea? You
Mm.
know? You
Mhm.
have to say, oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah, he
Because
could never
he-
see through his people because he wasn't
Yeah.
an advocate for himself.
And the thing is that, oh, to worship me?
Mm.
Yes. Why would I question? Of
Yeah.
course. That's why I put you in that position.
Don't you think
Oh,
if he would have
why?
known what was really going on, that they were trying to trap him into that he probably would have said, no, that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
Try to save Noah from the lion's den.
I wonder why they would pray to a king, though. This, I mean, I know they did that in like certain cultures, Sumerian,
Yeah.
Egyptian, but in this state, they're a lot more Gentile, a lot like more. I mean, they're Iranian, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. what I'm wondering is, praying to him, is that more going before him and saying, I have a petition of you? Or is that literally sitting in your own home and saying, oh, Darius, could you please answer my prayer?
Right.
You know, to
Right.
me, it sounds more like going before the king. I pray thee, would you please?
Yeah,
heed me?
yeah,
You know?
probably. Yeah. I think it's consistent with some of the historical records that some of these kings viewed themselves as gods and they wanted their population to view them as a god.
Yeah. That was more of a control mechanism, though.
Oh, totally. No doubt about it.
Just like,
Sure. Right. And he wasn't even king.
Question though, during this time, with the Islam, and praying 5 times a day.
I was just gonna say
Right,
something.
go on,
I was just
say-
reading.
go
I was
on,
saying
go,
that.
go,
No,
go.
you do it.
No, you go.
No, you go. You started
Are
it.
you guys reading ahead?
Finish it. You finish it. I started.
No. You go.
Now I'm scared.
Don't be scared.
Because now I'm scared I'm not going to say what she's going to expect.
No, go ahead. You're fine.
But, so I guess that my question is, if that's what's going on, then that's also going on, correct? That's also going on. Praying to Allah at that same time. So it's again that,
No, Allah didn't come in until 800 AD.
so they
That's
were
correct.
not praying, so there was no, so
But they were praying not to just
To
the
multiple
king
gods.
and
to Muslim gods.
there's other gods too
Yes,
besides
they're
Allah.
polytheistic. Right,
That's what I'm
right.
thinking.
So Muslim God,
Right.
whoever the,
And this
They were focusing on Daniel's prayer to that God, but
To
there were
that-
other people
right.
still worshiping other
worshiping
gods.
other
But
gods.
they were,
Right.
they were every society back then except the Jews were polytheistic. So for them to give up praying to multiple gods and just pray for one for a month, they're probably like, yeah, whatever. It's
Right.
okay.
Okay.
That's
I
true.
don't think Islam was developed yet. Islam wasn't developed yet.
Correct.
Right.
Right.
So when
That's what we're saying. Yeah.
when the Jews, when the Hindus rather accept Jesus or Yeshua, they frequently add them to their pantheon. They don't become monotheistic. They just say we'll accept him along with others.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's kind of along the same.
Right. But yeah, I mean, if something like this, if this wasn't a big deal to the population, then it shows that their relationship with their gods wasn't really personal anyway.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. You might have one favorite because you think.
Yeah, or
But
something.
don't the Catholics do that anyway? You bury
Oh, with the saints
Saint
or something.
Joseph out in the yard if you want to buy a house, or you know.
Did you think that maybe why didn't Noah do you think he just loved his God so much he didn't care?
I mean,
Why
Daniel.
did he not close his shades like he just did?
Oh, you're talking Daniel, not Noah.
Yes,
Daniel.
I think
Okay.
that Daniel. Why was he so adamant about showing that he's praying for his God? Like, couldn't he just shut the shades?
He said he wasn't going to change.
I know, but
Yeah.
you think he would have just closed them so to keep
Well,
himself out of
let's
trouble?
get there. Let's get there.
I just wanted to mention an interesting fact about Muslims. They pray 5 times a day. It's an Abraham-like story. So apparently Muhammad went to Allah and said, how many times a day do we have to pray? And he said like 100 times a day. And he says, well, how about if we did it 70 times a day? And he goes, oh, okay, we'll accept 70. Well, how about if we do it 6? So he
Oh.
did kind of that until we got down to 5.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's how it worked.
That's interesting.
They didn't steal him from anything. They didn't steal.
So, right. So whoever makes a request of any god or man during the next 30 days, except you, is thrown into the lion's pit. Now, your majesty, issue this decree over your signature so it can't be revoked. So where else do we see that it actually can't be revoked? Like once it becomes law, that even the king can't revoke it.
Esther.
Yep. Esther, and that was also the Persian Empire. So we're seeing consistency between the books there as well, that apparently this was some sort of tradition or whatever you want to call it with Persian law, that once it became law, even the king couldn't undo it. You had to work around it.
As it is written, so it shall be.
So let it be written.
Pharaoh.
So King Darius signed the document and the decree became law. So that is that. So this is all a setup. Now, this is not the first setup we saw in the book of Daniel. When we read chapter, I think it was the fire, the three boys in the fire, it seemed to also be a setup, right? Anybody want to remind me what that was? Like, were there satraps or folks like that saying?
You wonder if it's the same people. Or if
Right.
some of them.
Well, at this point, Daniel's an old man, right?
Right, yeah.
So if he was a boy, and once Nebuchadnezzar came in and it was a 70-year exile, we're talking about a man clearly in his 80s or higher at the time this chapter comes around. But when the three boys were put into the fire, I think it was a similar situation, right? I think they told, and I'm trying to refresh my own memory here. I think they told the king, Nebuchadnezzar, like, make this law. Like, if somebody doesn't bow down to this statue,
Exactly.
then they should be thrown in. So it's a similar type of,
And the same thing, he didn't want to do it.
and he didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Say that?
And one thing I just wanted to add, well, two things. One with the king, it seemed like because they were treated like gods, they knew his weakness, and it goes to how God always knows where your weak points are. And although the king had so much respect for Daniel because he was so, I guess, enveloped in his own ego, he didn't factor in how that would affect people he cared about. That was one. And then the second is Daniel, since he was such an old man, I think people who are, when you get older in age, you just don't
Seasoned.
care. You're
You're seasoned.
seasoned,
I don't care.
you just don't care. So going into how he just decided, okay, I heard about this, I'm going to pray.
Right.
He has seen what God had done, throughout the years with Nebuchadnezzar and everyone else. So I think at that point he didn't
Yep.
like that of
It could be. I think we in the last chapter saw a level of sarcasm out of Daniel, right? Like going to the king saying, "Look, you could keep your stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to do what I want here."
Been there, done that.
Like a younger
Been there,
person.
done that. So this is the first time we see Daniel actually being punished for something like this. Like in the first instance of this, where the people said, "Hey, king, enact this law, and if people break it, punish them." It was just Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Daniel was not in chapter 3; like he was mysteriously absent. But now Daniel gets his opportunity to do a similar thing.
Does Susie want to come in? She's
Well, she originally was just gonna hang out upstairs
Oh,
because she had a rough day at work.
Oh,
But now that the
okay.
kids are here, I think she's just gonna hang out with
okay.
the kids.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
So there was a similarity here.
Oh, to Yeshua? Great.
I think this is maybe a bit of a stretch, but not quite. Both prayed before they were arrested. Daniel continues to pray 3 times a day. Yeshua prays 3 times and gets sent. I can't say it. Anybody want to say that word for me? In the garden.
Gethsemane?
Gethsemane. Gets.
So where are we with the reading? Michelle, go ahead.
On learning that the document had been signed, Daniel went home. The windows of his upstairs room were open in the direction of Jerusalem, and there he knelt down 3 times a day and prayed, giving thanks before his God, just as he had been doing before.
So any thoughts on that? There's a little bit of Jewish history to explain also with this, but any thoughts on this? So in Judaism right now, they still pray 3 times a day, morning, noon, and night. They call it Shachrit, Mincha, and Marav. The morning, noon, and night prayers, and that tradition actually comes from this. Where Daniel got his tradition from was from it's 1 Kings 18 or something like that, when Solomon was dedicating the temple. One of the things he said was, and if we are cast out of our land, and we repent, and we turn our face towards this temple and pray, right? So he actually said that in that dedication, in Solomon's dedication. If you look from your land of your exile, you look towards this place and pray, God, please heal. Yeah, from the books of Kings.
That's another one then. That's sort of like intercession.
Yes, absolutely.
And by the way, we have that on offer twice a week, prayer at noontime. If anybody wants to do it.
That's awesome.
That would be the
Mincha.
Mincha.
Yes, Shachrit, Mincha, Marav.
Yep.
That's great. Yep. So just as he'd been doing before. So it's interesting. Sometimes in Judaism they'll say, well, this tradition started in the Babylonian exile of praying 3 times a day because it aligned with the sacrifices, the 3 sacrifices during the day. But I think what it's saying here is Daniel was doing this even before then.
Yeah.
So the tradition started even before. before
They
Babylon.
obviously knew it, which is why they picked it.
Meaning he never stopped doing it.
He never stopped doing it, right?
Right.
Right. So he was. So they knew he was doing it. Right. This is clearly a setup. They knew he was doing it. They knew he was going to do it, and it was a setup to catch him.
Last year. Poor Lou.
No, poor Lou.
No, poor Lou.
Poor Lou.
No, poor Lou.
Poor Lou.
Not here in this house.
But it's a beautiful thing. I mean, we see it like it's saying here that the windows they opened the windows, or Daniel did. He opened in the direction of Jerusalem, and to this day in synagogues we see that. Like very often, the beginning of a Jewish service, when the Shema especially is recited, you will see
Yeah,
them
it's supposed to turn
in
to-
our area. In our area, you'll see them turn to the east,
Right.
right, to face Israel.
We used to do that, didn't we, a long time ago when Peter first started?
We actually
Peter, we used to always turn to the
East
east to say the
is-
Shema.
we actually do it.
We actually do.
We actually do
And
it.
Well, yeah, because we're already facing that
So
way.
we have 146 south to
Right.
north. The stage area is this way, so you're actually facing that way at Mishkan.
Oh, that's why we stopped turning.
Did we once turn at Lighthouse Church?
Yeah,
No, I thought it was
Yeah.
a Tucket. We always
we
turned.
turn
Oh,
to
at
the
Pawtucket,
left.
that could be, yeah.
We always turn to the left in the Pawtucket one. And
But sometimes Susie, depending on what we're doing, will get up and turn around. So she's
Ah.
facing the wall.
Nice.
Yeah.
Because she's just that cute. All right, any other thoughts about Daniel praying towards Jerusalem?
Yes,
Okay.
chapter 9. We'll get there later. But
Oh.
they actually say the prayer that he was saying in chapter 9. So if
Oh,
you're wondering
nice.
what it was he was saying.
Nice. Another cliffhanger.
Well, the next one says
Another
he was praying
cliffhanger.
and pleading.
Because everything, this book is out of order, so that's.
Wait, are you saying that his prayer in chapter 9, which is when the angel visited him, is the same event as what we're reading now?
Yeah, it's when he's seeking for
Requests and pleading.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Hmm.
So it's, oh Lord, great and awesome God, who is faithful to his covenant with those who love him and keep his commandments. We have sinned, we have done what is wrong and wicked, we rebelled. So he's actually repenting for us.
Sure.
Because he's waiting for that 70 years, remember? He has
Yep.
that prophecy, so he knows it's going to be over.
But you're saying this is the actual event, like when he was caught?
Yeah.
Like why? What's your proof on that? Just curious. Like, because if he was doing it 3 times a day.
It's been a long time since I studied that, but that I can definitely bring that for when we do chapter 9.
Okay. All right.
Great.
Fair enough.
I'll make a note.
Okay. So verse 12, and we can go 12 and 13. So who's behind me that wants to read? Val, do you want to read?
Sure. Then they came near and said before the king concerning.
Wait. Nope. The one before that as well.
Then
Yes,
these men
that- the
came
other
by
then.
agreement and found
Yes.
Daniel making petition and plea before
Yes.
his God.
Yep.
Then they came near and said before the king concerning the injunction.
Tattletales.
Okay.
I know.
Did
What
you not
losers.
sign an injunction that anyone who makes petition to any god or man within 30 days except to you, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions? The king answered and said, the thing stands fast according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which cannot be revoked.
Good.
And they knew that all.
I like the acting, Val. That was very well done. Very realistic. I feel like I'm there.
Can we give her the gold star today?
Absolutely. She gets the award. So clearly this was a setup. It seems almost like they were kind of waiting outside the room
They
listening.
started to drool.
Their ears are against the door and they're just waiting for those prayers. They're waiting for those Baruch Atahs to start.
Their cell phones out to take
They got the cell phones out. You got it.
We got him now.
You got him now. He's praying just like he always
I
does.
feel a banquet coming on.
Off with his head.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, they should have maybe made a different type of punishment because
Okay.
the God of heaven controls the lions.
He sure
They
does.
should have seen that coming.
So they're stupid.
They're stupid.
But we don't do that.
I'm surprised that no one said, yeah, but what if, you know,
Yes.
what happens, what
I
happens,
know it.
happens.
Well,
Like they say, what if, like, we don't know.
I don't know, because
if anyone
they're
did.
eating Gentile foods, they probably didn't eat Daniel, but.
It's the
But,
food.
I mean, maybe these have heard the stories of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right?
Oh, that's
No.
interesting.
You know?
Yeah.
They should be thinking, oh, maybe God's gonna make a way in the
That's true. That's true. I mean, a lot of the exploits that we read in the previous chapters clearly didn't make it to the people in the subsequent chapters, where they have really short memories. Any other thoughts on these verses?
14, but
Oh, sorry.
Santos, any thoughts?
Oh, I thought we were at verse 14. We're not there yet.
Correct.
She's excited, she's jumping ahead.
Jumping ahead. All right.
13.
Tammy, you want to continue with the next? Whoop. Our Alexa's going to start talking to us. Hold on.
That's what?
Here's a reminder. We have to get a video.
She got the video.
14. They replied to the king? Isn't that really?
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
They replied to the king that Daniel, one of the exiles from Yehuda, respects neither you, your majesty, nor the decree you signed. Instead, he continues praying 3 times a day. When the king heard this report, he was very upset. He determined to save Daniel and worked until sunset to find a way to rescue him. But these, I'm sorry.
Yeah, keep going.
But
You can do the
these
next
men-
one too.
Okay, but these men descended on the king and said to him, what you want to say?
Yep.
Remember your majesty.
Great job.
The law
In case you
of the
forgot, I'm
Medes,
sure you
the
haven't.
Persians. No decree or edict once issued by the king can be revoked. Didn't you?
He should have thrown them in.
Encore. Encore.
We've trapped a lot of people, I guess.
It's not a fundraiser for hating, maybe a little play.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So they replied to the king that Daniel, one of those exiles, respects neither you, your majesty, nor the decree you signed. Instead, he continues to pray 3 times a day. So when the king heard the report, he was very upset. He was determined to save Daniel, which is interesting. So Daniel had a lot of favor with the king.
Yes.
He continued to have that favor throughout his life. Whoever the king was, they always seemed to really, really respect Daniel.
It's almost like the king came to his senses, like, wait, what in the world was I thinking?
All right.
And they, like, wasn't really thinking.
Yeah.
And
Like he didn't realize that they were going against Daniel.
Exactly.
I had something to add. to that.
Mhm.
This is verse 14, the way they said, that Daniel, the one of the exiles from Yehuda. So
Yep.
Daniel was already a chief over them. So clearly the king already knew who Daniel was and where he was from. And from here you can see the jealousy
Yep.
that the viceroys had.
Yep.
Because Daniel was an exile. He was, in a way, a foreigner over them, right?
That's
Placed
true.
over them. And how can this foreigner from Yehuda, this exile, have a job that's over me?
That's true.
Clearly, like,
Yep.
jealousy. A jealousy there.
Yep.
I would go one further and say this is specifically against Daniel and against
Exactly.
because all the satraps were from different areas. They were all different nationalities. They were all different, whatever background. It's only him they're singling out.
But it could have also been that same like Jew hating mentality that we see like with
The Amalekite
Right.
spirit.
Yeah, exactly.
Rising up.
right. Same thing with Haman. Yep. Right.
Boo!
Exactly. Haman.
So
Right.
now we have proof.
For the
Even
bad,
if
but
they
that
turn
bad, no.
controversies like Daniel did, they still hate him.
Yes, I know. You can't do
That's
anything
like
right.
gold.
I know exactly. So when the king heard the report, he was very upset. He was determined to save Daniel. Worked until sunset to find a way to rescue him.
And so
Looking for a loophole in the law.
Yeah.
again, this is Pilate.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
And said
I thought a
Pilate-
pilot, yes.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, he sent him back and forth, right? And he was looking for the. So Pilate said to the chief priests and to the people, "I find no fault in him." That's from Luke. but I mean, we know the story
Right.
about him trying to get out
Washing
of
the
it.
hands of it.
Yeah, he tried to get out of it, and then he washed his hands of it.
Right, right. That's great.
His
Very
blood be
good.
upon us and upon our children.
That's awesome. So what is, tell me again the book that you're reading from?
The name of the book was, I think it's the shadow or the foreshadow of Jesus or the Christ in Daniel 6.
Oh, so it's just Daniel 6. It's not the
just
whole book of
Daniel
Daniel.
6, yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay, that's interesting.
That is interesting.
I like it.
A whole book on one chapter. Huh?
What's it called?
Yeah.
The shadow of
Of Jesus.
Of Jesus in
I'll find the
chapter
actual one.
6. Is that?
I'll find the actual thing.
Hold on, I could take a look here. Hold on, we can look
The
together.
shadow knows.
The shadow.
So,
The shadow.
Oh, you said shadow of Jesus and Daniel?
well, I wrote that.
It's
No,
actually,
you said it under it. that came
Well,
up.
here's 12 ways Daniel in the lion's den foreshadows Jesus. Is that what this is? Is it David
it's
Schrock?
a book. No, it's
Okay.
it's called.
When you were typing that in, something came up under it while you were typing.
I don't know.
Right there.
Well, that's what I just typed.
Oh.
No.
Okay, I don't know. Okay, but that's good. That's a good reference.
That is a good thing.
So the men descended on the king and said, "Remember, I can't act as well as you guys. Forget about it."
Didn't you say?
Remember, Your Majesty.
Remember, Your Majesty.
I don't know if I'm coming anymore.
I think we do need like a Sukkot skit or something like that. I am seeing a skit here.
Over there. Eric, next time you come, just put on your girly voice and it'll be okay.
No, Eric.
So these people didn't really have respect for the king either, right? Like they just took advantage of him.
Manipulative.
Yes.
So the king is looking to find a loophole, but then they go and descend on him, this wording, and reminding him, hey, I see what you're doing, you're trying to find a loophole, but remember, you can't.
Yep. Yep.
So this was a big setup from these satraps.
Yep.
I wouldn't want to be called a satrap
It
either.
just sounds nasty. doesn't
It does, satrap. Anything that
Like a
says
rat trap.
like a rat trap.
Rat trap.
Exactly. All right, Miss Wendy, do you want to read these two on the screen?
Sure.
Did I miss something?
So the king gave the order, and they brought Daniel and threw him into the lion pit. The king said to Daniel, "Your God, whom you are always serving, will save you." A stone was brought to block the opening of the pit, and the king sealed it with his own signet and with the signet of his lord, so that nothing concerning Daniel could be changed.
Then. Yes.
So not to be the dead horse, but Matthew 27:60.
Okay.
They went
The
and
grave.
the sepulchre
Yep.
here, sealing the stone
Yep.
and setting the watch.
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking of that as when I was first reading this
Yeah.
yesterday. So the king really seems to have reverence not only for Daniel but for Daniel's God.
Yes.
Yeah.
That
Yes,
might be why he's
exactly.
not reported. Oh.
Who knows? Who knows?
Well, you wonder because Daniel read to Cyrus the book where he was mentioned in Isaiah. It's not written here, but that doesn't mean anything. Maybe he mentioned to them because he did foresee the versions of Medes.
Mm-hmm.
He may have said something to him.
True, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it seems that this king had this reverence for God, obviously before this happened. So Daniel he must have had some communication with him and some level of relationship with him.
Yeah.
I mean, we're seeing relationship. I mean, even with Daniel with Nebuchadnezzar, we see a close relationship. There was a level of kind of mutual respect there
Yeah.
with him and Nebuchadnezzar, and we're seeing a little bit of that here with Darius.
Right.
We did not see it with the previous king, Belshazzar. Daniel seemed to have no respect for Belshazzar. So, sealed it with his own signet and with the signet of his lords. Now, I don't know what that means. Like, why did he need more than his own signet? like maybe does it mean that this Darius wasn't really totally king? Was he serving somebody else, or was he working on somebody else's behalf?
And who are the lords?
Like who are the lords, or does he have to do it on like is he it's like president and Congress?
Yeah, it sounds like
Yeah.
there's more of a Congress type
Right.
situation
Mhm.
because
Like vice president.
why else would
Mhm.
a king who is a monarch over everything just not be able to change his own laws?
Right,
I
right,
mean, the first thing I'd do if I came in as king and I didn't have oversight was say, okay, we're changing that law.
right,
You know?
Mhm.
So there must be some kind of.
right. That's true.
A king can change his mind anytime he wants.
No, it's a woman.
Or?
It's a woman.
Yeah, maybe that's why they can't find him. Darius is a woman.
Exactly.
A woman can change her. Just being funny, sorry.
I'm not saying anything about that. So anything else regarding? So we got Daniel in the lion's pit. The plot sickens.
It's getting dark already.
I love it.
Oh, I know, right?
You can feel it in the
I
air.
love it.
And are you hearing the?
Who loves it? Who
Wendy.
loves it?
Wendy
you love
loves
it? You love when it gets dark early?
Yes.
Oh, me too. I like it when it's snowing at 4
Yeah.
o'clock and it's dark out.
Really? I don't like that. I like it light late so I can do more things outside.
It's like hard to get dark so I go to bed.
No, I'm the opposite.
So I want to do like leaves go to bed.
Because for
No.
me, it signifies the ending of this torturous summer.
Ugh.
It's been.
It's been hard.
I liked it.
I did too.
Like green, more green.
All right, Donald, do you want to read these two verses that I have highlighted?
Then the king returned to his palace. He spent the night fasting and refusing to be entertained, as sleep eluded him. Early in the morning, the king got up and hurried to the lion pit.
I have a hunch we're going to read something about the women going to the tomb in the morning.
No.
Am I right? No, it's not one of the
I
connections?
mean, there's just a few that I like I said, I didn't read the book. I just went through and got my own. And
Got it,
some
got
of
it.
mine, but I'm sure the book has a lot.
So he fasted. So the king was fasting.
Wow.
Like this is how strongly he felt about Daniel and,
Dan didn't want to be
and
entertained by what? A woman?
probably. Yep,
Yeah.
probably.
Or was it like entertainment Billy
mean,
dancing?
he's more
It
than
wasn't
fasting.
Netflix, I'll tell you
He
that.
fasted sleep, he fasted
He must have been sad for
entertainment,
his
he
mom.
fasted, like everything. Doesn't it soften your heart towards him?
Yes.
It does for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
He's human.
That he's human.
Yeah.
Exactly. That he's got a heart, even though he was a brutal despot. He had a heart. Same with Nebuchadnezzar. We're supposed to have a level of connection to him, even though history paints him as this brutal, fiendish, overlord. Which is really interesting, like it's because if the Bible expresses God's heart towards people,
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about God's heart versus man's heart. Like, these are evil dictators. And here's God, like, writing his word in a way where we're supposed to have a level of compassion for this man. All right, so morning happened. The stone rolled away. Jesus is alive. All right, Carrie Perry, do you want to read
Carrie Perry.
Carrie Perry.
with the coolest name of all of us?
On approaching the pit where Daniel was, the king cried in a pained voice to Daniel, Daniel, servant the living God, has your God, whom you are always serving, been able to save you from the lions?
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, yeah.
Like how pained he was.
May the king live.
Oh, no. Such actresses. I love it.
But yeah, I love how he's worried. He runs there and he's
I
worried.
know.
And he's the first thing he
Yeah,
does in the morning.
And he calls him servant of the living God. I mean, that is that's something that, yeah, and that's something, right? That's something that people of God call other people of God.
Living
You know,
God.
that's right, the living God.
Living
Right,
God.
that means something.
Recognize him as the God.
And
Mhm.
The only living God.
Sure.
But the fact that he even thought to run there and see if it happened
Right.
meant that he knew
That
that there was a
faith.
possibility.
Yes.
Yes.
He had a little bit of faith there.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, we're seeing an evening where he probably
My goodness, you were.
had a level of connection with God.
Exactly.
You know, he was fasting that night,
He must
clearly
have had,
praying.
Yes.
Internally, he had like the spirit of knowledge rose up within him. Like, I know something. I think when I go there, I'm gonna find out. So I'm not gonna find bits, like little bits
Mhm.
of Dan. Like,
But he
he's gonna
said it.
answer
He said,
that.
"May your God, whom you
Yeah.
serve, deliver you."
Deliver you.
He said it.
Yeah.
May he.
That was a
That was
prayer.
his hope.
Yeah,
That was his prayer. Yeah.
that was his prayer. Amen.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe, so a lot of people think that in the kingdom, like in heaven or in the kingdom, we'll see Nebuchadnezzar because of his experience when he encountered God when he was out in the woods. Maybe we'll see this Darius the Mede.
Maybe, yeah.
And we'll ask him, who are you in history? Why did history ignore you?
I knew Darius.
Who are you?
Smoking a pilot. Did you ask him
You wonder why the first one out of Noah's
Is
mouth
he here?
was
Daniel.
the king. Yes. Why did you say that? Why would the first one out of his mouth be may the king live forever? Should it be?
Right.
Should it be? Thank you, Lord.
Right.
You live forever. So
Right.
which king was he talking to? The king of all kings, or was he talking to that king?
That's a great question. He was probably talking to King Darius.
He's
I guess-
already spent the night in prayer.
Yeah, but you would
before.
think
yes.
the first thing he would say was, "My king rules."
See, the lion is Yeshua, so he was talking to Yeshua all night long.
He's the Lion of Judah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Hear the sound of the Lion of Judah.
Are always serving. Whom you are always serving.
Yeah.
So, Kay, do you want to read what I have highlighted?
Sure. Then Daniel answered the king, "May the king live forever. May my God send his angel to shut the lions' mouths, so they haven't hurt me. This is because before him I was found innocent, and also I have done no harm to you, your majesty."
Mm-hmm.
I just want to know if he saw the angel. That's all I want to know.
Only one night in there. That's it.
Did he talk to the
Maybe they
angel?
were
I didn't
hungry.
know it was an angel. He's a prophet, so maybe he did see the angel.
He must have. Yeah, I bet he did.
Maybe
I bet
the
he did.
lions were like bumping up against him.
Yeah.
Or maybe they were just not hungry.
Maybe the angel. was-
Maybe they were vegetarians too.
Let's look up the word in the Hebrew
Yes,
and
let's-
see what it's saying.
Um,
That angel.
the
Is
angel?
the angel.
Well,
Is it the captain of the host?
First of all, what language are we reading in here? It's not
This is still
Hebrew.
Aramaic.
Yep. So it is still Aramaic.
Aramaic.
So if we go to Daniel 6, and what was the verse?
Oh,
It'll be 22.
right.
23.
Yes, 23.
No, 22. So my God sent his angel, and this with Elahi, so that definitely sounds like my God. Shalach, that's send. So Malachi, yeah. So that's yeah, that sounds like angel. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Malach is angel.
It's like Melech.
It's
like
very similar to
Daniel.
Malach. Yeah,
It's very similar.
very similar. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. It's very similar to the word king. Yeah, but it's different.
Adonai.
That's king. Yes.
Adonai.
Malach
Malach,
is angel.
Here's the other one.
And
There's,
so is
well, you
it
could
spelled-
act and sing. It's just really great.
Is it spelled the same way? And it's just the vowel markers
we're
are
organizing the
different?
worship going on over here.
For Melech and Malach?
So, let me get rid of this top bar. Hide floating meeting. And let's take a look at, so this is the word angel, right? Sent his angel. So by the way it works in Hebrew also is that when it's like his angel, like the his is part of the word.
Right.
So if we take a look, so really what we need to look at is the root word here. So, okay, so here it is. So here's the root word under here. So it's malach, this guy here.
Okay.
So that's the root word. So now if you want to take a look at in Hebrew,
So can't you just type in which angel was it that God sent to Daniel in the lion's den?
well, it doesn't say, does it?
It doesn't say at all?
Nope.
I wonder what the commentaries say.
I could check
It was
if
Daniel's angel.
if they say
He
something.
had one assigned.
He did have one. We all have one assigned, don't we?
Amen.
Well, for sure he did.
Well, it says, Yeshua says that talking about children, their angels are continually before the Lord. So, what, do the angels go away when we grow up?
Oh, no.
I hope not. So it looks exactly the same.
Oh, gotcha.
So here is Hebrew, the
Yeah.
malach,
Yeah.
malach, and and that's Hebrew. That's from Genesis, and here's the Aramaic. So it's exactly the
Okay,
same.
And that's angel.
They're both angel, one Hebrew, one Aramaic. This one that you're looking at is Aramaic.
Okay.
I actually asked what's his name, Esau, the one that works at the
Isa.
at the shawarma place down the road. He speaks Aramaic.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a shawarma place just about 2 miles away from here or something like that, and he's really sweet man. He's a Christian, and he speaks Aramaic. And
To go for a field trip.
yes, he's intrigued by us.
Okay, well,
But he
let's-
speaks
Let's bring it
he
on.
speaks fluent Aramaic. So I talked to him about that. He said it's just like we're seeing
600
here.
people left.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Right. There's just a small remnant of people that actually speak it.
Let's speak it.
And it's such a small remnant, he said, that he actually can make Aliyah, even though he's not Jewish.
Same.
Like they'll let him into Israel just because of his history, and he speaks Aramaic, such an ancient language. But he did say also that the lettering in Aramaic is the same as Hebrew, and we're seeing that here as well.
It says that the angel, I asked what angel did the Lord send to Daniel in the lion's den, and it said Habakkuk, Saint Habakkuk. Daniel in the lion's den saved by
Oh, it was in
Habakkuk.
Saint Habakkuk.
Habakkuk?
As described in the rabbinic literature.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, let's take a look at what the rabbinic literature says. Hold on. So
I'm
this
just
was
curious because
okay.
You know how he has certain ones that do certain things and certain jobs and
So Daniel
one is
6.
the protector angel of.
So where are we? Like around 22, 23?
Israel.
22,
Yes,
23.
but
King live forever. My God sent his angel. And let's see what we got here. A lot of the commentary here is we're not going to be able to read because it's all in Hebrew. But
Archangel Michael, I don't think so.
come on.
Fights against the
Load.
Same thing.
Let's see what Rashi says. No,
Yeah.
nothing from Rashi.
Yes.
Who was the prophet in the lion's den?
It's all Hebrew.
Yeah, like, hello.
I burned you.
Let's see if we could find something in.
Angel was sent to.
Anyway, I'll have to look into that. But I
According to St. Mary's
Quiet.
Yeah, Gabriel went
the
to
angel
him.
Gabriel was sent from God to a town of Galilee.
Quiet.
A virgin betrothed to a man named Joseph.
I'm not
of the
talking
house
to
of
you.
David.
boy, we're learning so much.
Stop it.
That's old news. That's old news.
Stop talking.
All right. I'll try to find that rabbinic reference, but I believe that what you found. Okay. Okay, 24. Where are we? Santos's. You guys want to read what I have highlighted?
Messenger, Melech.
Sure.
Yes, correct.
And
Melech.
he's the Melech.
Melech, messenger and angel are the same word.
Is angel and
Correct.
angel was Melech.
Correct. Same Hebrew word.
It said 24.
I have it on the screen if you want to read it from there. Highlighted.
I have my glass on. The king was overjoyed and ordered Daniel taken up from the pit. So Daniel was taken up from the pit, and he was found to be completely unharmed because he had trusted in his God.
Okay.
Adonai.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, Haman.
Yeah,
That's true. So we don't see in this chapter Daniel making any sort of statement saying, you can do what you want to me, God's going to save me, right? Like we saw that with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They said, we're not bowing down, we're not doing what you're saying, and, you know, we're going to trust that God saves me, but even if he doesn't save, we're not bowing. So we don't see any sort of defense from Daniel at all of himself, or even a statement of faith that God's going to save him. But just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, that's a good point.
He just kind of went
You know
in.
what, what's coming to me is like, he is my defense.
Right.
You know, it's almost like he was younger, and that's how he responded, and now he just.
As an old man, do what you want to me. Whatever. Lion Schmeyen, I've been through so much.
Also, like a point of maturity, like he is
Right.
my defense, even though I hadn't been.
The battle is the Lord's.
Yes, the battle is Lord. He is my defense. I will not be moved. I try. I have to say, I try not to.
All right. Did everybody get a chance to read? All right. I think we're back to Sarah, and we're almost done with the chapter. So, Sarah, do you want to read what I have?
So much.
Okay. Then the king gave an order, and they brought those men who had accused Daniel, and they threw them into the lion pit. Them, their children, and their wives. And before they even reached the bottom of the pit, the lions had them in their control and broke all their bones to pieces.
Not a good way to go.
Wow, why their family?
You know, I like the King James on that one. 'Cause it
Yeah?
says the lions had mastery over them.
That's not nice. The kids didn't do anything.
So apparently, in my little study that I did on this, apparently this was something that was common in this culture. This is something that in the Bible that's consistent with the historical writings. That if they wanted to punish somebody, they would punish their family in the same
They
way.
wipe out the whole lot.
Wipe out the family.
Yeah,
Yep.
that way there's no lineage.
Yep.
Nobody to tell the story.
I mean, God does that.
Yeah.
He punishes, right? He wipes out the lineage.
Mm.
Of course, in that case, they're deserving.
But that's what they did with
Cora.
Yep.
Haman.
Yep.
Yeah, they the sons. Yeah.
Sons.
Yeah.
It's several times in the word.
Which is interesting, though. Like when I think of him being thrown into the lion's pit, I know there's no relation, but it's just coming into my mind how like when Korah was put into the pit, right? Like when Korah and his family went into the pit, but with God, his sons survived. So, and the sons wound up becoming psalmists, and wrote so many of the beautiful psalms that we read now. So there's redemption.
There's a redemption.
In God's punishment, there was redemption, but with this king, there was no family redemption.
Yeah, we read that, and still for me, I mean, your choices are so important. Like you could really hurt somebody else. Irreparable harm that can't be taken back as well. So it's like balancing the grace part with, I could really make a bonehead move and really hurt my family, and there may be no coming back from that.
Yep.
Like an attorney, maybe there's grace, but like in the here and now, so that just it should just be a warning, just to think about. Really make good decisions.
Right, bad choices. Right, bad choices lead to
bad outcomes. And and if we trust Adonai, I mean, he shows us good choices. So yeah.
So, Eric, do you want to take us to the second to the last verse?
Okay. And King Darius wrote to all the peoples, nations, and men of every language throughout the land, "May you prosper greatly. I issue a decree that in every part of my kingdom people must fear and reverence the God of Daniel. For he is the living God, and he endures forever."
Sounds like he was reading some some David Psalms.
Exactly.
Keep going.
His kingdom will not be destroyed, his dominion will never end.
Right.
He rescues and he saves, he performs signs and wonders in the heavens and on the earth. He has rescued Daniel from the power of the lions.
Amen.
So Daniel prospered during the reign of Darius and the reign of Cyrus the Persian.
Yep, Cyrus the Persian. Boy, it'd be nice if we found that historical document, huh? From
What do you mean, Cyrus? Where does it say Cyrus?
Well, I see Koresh.
Koresh.
Cyrus is obviously the English anglicized. Right.
Well, you don't like what he's doing to you?
Isn't that interesting, Koresh?
Like David Koresh.
No, I'm just thinking of the sons of Korah.
Oh, that's so
we were seeing
interesting.
Korah, and so we're seeing Koresh. That's what I'm just...
I mean, I didn't know that Cyrus's real name was actually Koresh. Let's see, same reign of Cyrus the Persian. So, yeah, Koresh, there it is. Koresh. Yep.
Interesting, right?
Yep.
Because is the
So
root?
Resh is.
So Koresh, yeah, and then you have Korah, which is like, does Korah end with a hay, with the hay rather than the
does.
shin? So that's interesting, because then you have like the breath versus the fire.
You're getting to know this really well.
I know it. Tammy's showing off.
Thank you.
The shin!
So that would be a great archaeological artifact to find, huh? Imagine if they find Darius's writing here that he wrote to all the people about Daniel. Like, that would be something else.
But it's interesting because that's the second time we've seen it. Edict
Yep,
go out, right?
absolutely.
I'm sorry, second time we've seen what?
Nebuchadnezzar wrote one, same type of thing, to the people about Daniel.
Languages and
Wow, I want to do a side
Do we
by
have
side.
those edicts? Are those in the history books?
No, not those. No, not that
We have
specific.
the Cyrus scroll, but I do. Last time I was going to look into Darius, and I did download something, but I didn't read it.
Okay.
So there's oh, I can't even think right now. There's a document that's been written, an academic document that's been written that is proposing that Darius was actually another king. They have a name. They have some proofs for it. So I'm going to read
Right,
through that.
right.
It'd be interesting. There is a preserved. It's not a stele or anything, but there's some preserved writings from that king. So it'd be interesting to find something.
Yeah, yep. Beautiful. And Darius, one of the subsequent Darius is actually the father of Xerxes, who's Ahasuerus.
Oh,
Yep,
Wow.
yep. Not this Darius, another
Multiple
Darius.
Dariuses and multiple Nebuchadnezzars.
Yep,
So.
yep, yep. Saddam Hussein called himself Nebuchadnezzar II, but
But he wasn't.
he would have been like Nebuchadnezzar V or something.
Did you see the castle that he built and the excavations they did? Oh, it's incredible. Yeah. I'll have to-
Oh, like when he was rebuilding.
Yeah, he built a palace over when they started excavating Babylon.
Right.
And he built this huge palace on top of the hill overlooking the site, and it's modeled after it, so it looks just like it
Crazy.
fits in with that ancient.
That's amazing.
And it's so well preserved. It's
Wow.
Beautiful.
Amazing. Beautiful. 8:30, right on the dot, or 8:31. Any final thoughts on Daniel chapter 6?
That was a good job.
Yeah, good stuff. So I think we hit.
It's good to devour it that way.
I have one, Rabbi.
Ended, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Devour
Right,
it.
maybe two. But no, just that last part right there. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's amazing that a sign and wonder was done and made people see Adonai King of all. You know what I mean? And I would love that in 2022. That through
Amen.
my life, at least my kids and my wife.
Yes.
That a sign and wonder, and that's what moves people to see.
Right.
Like, we're dealing with inflation right now. Like, God, give us a sign and wonder to
Yes.
show that despite a lack right now, you are plentiful. So I just think, I mean, if the example in the Torah is looking at these examples, it's like, well, he had integrity. He did what God told him to do, and God used him to show bounty and plentifulness. I think it's, I mean, I couldn't hear all the discussion, but I just kept looking at it like, wow, that's what people, it's just like faith sometimes is sight. You know, what can I see? What can I feel? And I just think that's awesome. And I think just the second thing was, you know, to see this king, and we were talking about laws earlier, and you guys referenced that book, but how it's amazing that we serve a God that will change his mind in some aspects. I mean, there's some things that are internal, but the fact that he will shift the decree on our behalf, you know, so
Right.
that's cool to look forward to that verse.
Yes.
You know, I guess this earthly model. I think for me that you guys were talking about how I guess this foreshadows Yeshua. I'm like, this foreshadows our heavenly fathers in his kingdom, and how, you know, I will change my laws in some aspects to save you.
I love
will
that.
Come down myself.
I love
and
it.
rearrange all of my legislation on your behalf, and I
love
think that's really cool. Now
It is.
again, not all boundary stones, like not everything, right? Not in the way that we're seeing things codified and changed in our legislation, but it's like that's awesome. That's really, and I think at that time that was an unthought of idea that a deity could do that.
Right.
And that makes it very unique. Being one of the first monolith, you know, there's only one God. So I just think that's so powerful. And I think we glossed over that and shouldn't. So
I love that, and
Yeah.
I agree that God changes. Like if he puts down a verdict, like a verdict of judgment or punishment, he can change his mind. We see that, right? And he can hear the cries and the prayers and the repentance of his people, and he can just change his verdict, which is the antithesis of what we see with these evil kingdoms. Like they have these verdicts and nothing can change. It's like once it's down, nothing can change it. But that's not how the Lord works. He will change his plan if we humble ourselves, especially plans of destruction, to bring plans of peace. Baruch Hashem, wonderful. So we hit kind of a turning point in the book of Daniel. Obviously, you've realized that Daniel 1 through 6 have all been stories, right? It's all about Daniel has this experience, or Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and there's a lot of similarity also. You know, the evil people of the land come against them, and God saves them. But now we start to hit the prophetic writings in Daniel. So next time we actually hit some of the amazing messianic prophecies. Amazing messianic prophecies that come out of this man Daniel.
2 weeks from now?
2 weeks from today. All right. Baruch Hashem. Thank you, Adonai, for a beautiful study and a beautiful time. In Yeshua's name. All right, y'all. We'll close the Zoom. Have a good night.
Laila Tov.
Laila Tov, everyone. Thank you.
Good night. Good night. Good night.
Good night.
So, Lou, what's going on?
I don't know about it.
Well, let's take authority over that. Yes?